call this August 7th work session of the Oconee County Board of Education to order. First thing we need is a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Mr. Ransom?
Second.
Mr. Hammett, all in favor? Passes 4-0. Next, we have the superintendent's report.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, board members, and thank you for being here tonight. And with the weather we have outside, I'll make my comments brief. I just want to say we had an outstanding start to the school year. It's day 4, and I want to thank all the leaders in the room and the teachers and staff throughout our district for working very hard to prepare for our kids and continuing those efforts now that the kids have arrived. So it's been a good start. We look forward to day 5 tomorrow. That'll conclude superintendent's comments. That's their questions.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is presentations and discussions. First, we have the teaching and learning report. Welcome, Dr. Stansel.
Thank you. Good evening, board members. The August 7th teaching and learning report contains 6 items of information and no action items. The first item of information is Innovation Oconee. On July 21st, the 4th annual Innovation Oconee took place at North Oconee High School. This event provided an opportunity for new and returning teachers to learn from our very own Oconee County experts. Ms. Ann Lucky, who is a former OCS teacher and is quite the legend, did a phenomenal job as the keynote speaker, welcoming everyone and kicking off the event. Her mother was also an OCS teacher, and her daughter is now following in her footsteps and is a 3rd grade teacher at High Shoals this year. There were over 85 Oconee teachers, ITS, and administrators present, with 22 teachers presenting on technology and effective instructional practices. A special thank you to Jennifer Adams, Andrea Pender, and Ryan White and his staff for their efforts to ensure a fantastic event. The second item of information is our Summer District Professional Learning. On July 28th, OCS held our annual District Professional Learning Day. Administrators, teachers, parapros, and all other staff were engaged in a variety of trainings, including trainings on ST Math, technology, responsive classroom, Go IEP, Title I, Common Lit for middle school ELA teachers, art, music, PE, and STEM training for our elementary activity teachers, media specialist and nurse training, training for our ESOL and Title I teachers, and safety training for all employees. In addition to the training day held annually during pre-planning, our staff has been involved in training all summer long. Human Resources held trainings for all new elementary and secondary teachers. They also conducted training specifically for bus drivers over the summer. Our payroll department is involved in these trainings as well. Student Services conducted specialized trainings, including support for our staff in Wilson Reading. Our technology team hosted barn days for new and existing employees where they learn about technology they will use, and held multiple Infinite Campus trainings for this summer for our clerks, registrars, TNL staff, administrators, counselors, attendance clerks, and nurses. Dr. LaDuff and his team held active shooter trainings, work order training on our new FlowPath system, and push-to-talk device training so that our schools can communicate directly with our transportation department and bus drivers. The communications team held customer service training with all front office staffs and provided media training for our sports teams. And then there is teaching and learning. Multiple trainings were held this summer, ranging from elementary and middle school math teachers working on curriculum mapping and updates to teachers creating assessments for the upcoming year as part of our assessment design team. Our staff has been busy this summer working hard to get ready for our students this fall. The third item of information is the results of the 2023 Georgia Milestones end of grade and end of course assessments. This first graph shows our ELA proficiencies in grades 3 through 5. OCS is shown in blue and is compared to our RESA in red and our state in yellow. This next graph shows our math proficiencies in grades 3 through 5. Next is ELA in grades 6 through 8. And then math in grades 6 through 8. This next one shows our 5th grade science, our 8th grade high school physical science courses, and our 8th grade social studies. And the last graph shows our end of course results in the 4 areas that we test at the high school level: American Lit, Algebra 1, Biology, and U.S. History. As you can see, we were well above the RESA and the state in all areas. The next several slides show our rankings as compared to other systems. So this shows 3rd grade ELA and Math and 4th grade ELA and Math. This next slide shows 5th grade ELA, Math, and Science. Next we have 6th grade and 7th grade ELA and Math rankings. 8th grade ELA, Math, and Social Studies rankings. And then our high school Algebra 1, Biology, American Lit, and U.S. History in the course tests. The 4th item of information is our scores on our advanced placement assessments. This first graph shows the number of students taking at least one AP exam. As you can see, OCS showed an overall increase from last year, and the total number of students was the highest it has ever been. The next graph shows the percentage of students scoring 3 or higher on at least one AP exam. Again, both our schools showed an increase over last year, and the total was the highest it has ever been. The 5th item of information is strategic planning. Board members, as you are aware, we completed our Cognia accreditation review last school year, and we'll move right into the development of our strategic plan for this school year. We are partnering with GSBA, and this slide shows our timeline for the process. So as you can see, we completed our Cognia review process. In August, board members, you will go through the board training with GSBA. In September, on the 19th, we will hold our community strategic planning event. From September to October, we will administer surveys to all OCS stakeholders. In November, we will conduct a strategic planning team meeting with GSBA. And then in January, we'll conduct action team meetings. Then January through March, we will develop the goals, initiatives, and action steps for our strategic plan. In April, Dr. Branch will recommend approval. In May and June, the board will review and plan to post the strategic plan. And then in June, once that all has been approved, our schools will develop school improvement plans that are aligned to our strategic plan. This next slide highlights our community strategic planning event, which was held in September of 2018, 5 years ago. We began strategic planning with a community engagement session that involved approximately 400 representatives from all stakeholder groups. OCS also provided a stakeholder survey, like we will this year, to gather vital input from the community and received 267 responses to the online survey. This response of almost 700 stakeholders was by far the largest turnout from a community that GSBA had ever seen. This meeting helped write our last 5-year plan, which included things like one-to-one Chromebooks and the plan to build Duck Creek Middle School. We hope to have an even bigger turnout at our next community engagement event, which is scheduled for September 19th at 6 p.m. at the Oconee County Civic Center. This important work and the feedback we get from this guides every decision that we make in our system. The 6th item of information is Regulation IHA-R1 Grading Systems, Grading and Reporting. The State Board of Education adopted the amendments to State Board of Education Rule 160-4-2.13 statewide passing score. This rule amendment changes the percentage requirement of the numeric score on the Georgia Milestones End of Course, or EOC assessment on a student's final numeric grade, and the course assessed by the EOC to a minimum of 10% from the current 20% beginning with the 23-24 school year. With this update, OCS course averages for classes that have an EOC will be calculated using the following formula: 90% coursework average plus 10% EOC, as opposed to 80% coursework average plus a 20% EOC as it had previously been. Board Regulation IHA-R1 Grading Systems, Grading and Reporting has been updated to reflect these changes. And that concludes my report, unless there are any questions.
Sorry. Go ahead. Just a comment on Innovation Oconee. I had the privilege of working with both Miss Lucky and her mother, Miss Jane McDonald. Wonderful teachers, and I'm sure Miss Lucky was a wonderful speaker.
Very inspirational.
I have a comment and then a question. If I'm following you correctly on the AP exams, We had 1,003 students take those, and we had roughly 921 students that earned a 3 or greater on that exam.
That's correct.
Okay, that is excellent. Thank you for clarifying that. And then looking at the strategic planning timeline, just to make sure it's clear out there, so that, could you confirm when that first session is?
August 14th will be the board training, and
The September
19th will be the community engagement session.
Okay. And that's going to be at the Civic Center?
Civic Center at 6 p.m.
Okay.
And we'll be promoting that through social media, and principals will be sending information out to their staff and parents.
Okay. And that is open to anyone that's a resident of Oconee County?
Correct.
All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I have one question, sorry, but just about the milestones rankings. I mean, I was just really amazed by that, just our difference in the RESA and the state. I don't recall, has it always been that big a difference? Have we always been that far ahead?
We typically do outperform the RESA and the state, but our scores this year were excellent.
Right, good job,
So-
everybody.
Have you seen that as our score staying more stable and the RESA and the state's declining, or have you seen ours outperforming the others, or a combination of both? Or, and if you don't know, that's okay, because it's a lot of data.
I would say, and speaking for ours continue to improve.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you. Next on our agenda is technology. Welcome, Dr. White.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening, board members and Dr. Brandt. The technology report for this evening has one item of information, and it is our summer technology update. So this summer we had the opportunity to be able to put in new network management for the entire network. We finalized all 7 elementary schools with audio enhancement. We have Dove Creek Middle as our pilot as well. We surplus 4,296 items across all Oconee County Schools campuses. We also were privileged to build Dove Creek Middle as well, and at Dove Creek Middle we had 61 projectors that went into that building, 89 access points, 19 network switches, access control, in addition to the audio enhancement for the classroom audio with the microphones and their intercom system as well. We also have been very busy with Infinite Campus, and we're currently averaging over 90,000 logins a week by parents and students. So it is definitely getting used in lieu of Power School to check grades and schedules right now. And in addition, with Infinite Campus, we also have a new transportation daily request form for parents who need to make those daily changes instead of permanent changes. It also gives us access to new modules as well to explore with action teams and with principals as well. That concludes the technology report, unless there's any questions.
Any questions?
I just have a comment, and,
Yes, ma'am.
and I'm sure there's this issue for at least one other person and myself, but if you forget your password to Infinite Campus, it doesn't say, it just says to contact administration. So I think like maybe the principals could send out something just saying, I mean, if they do an update on Infinite Campus, this is what you do if you don't, because there's no way to reset your password on the app yourself. You have to contact, which I did contact for you advised me who to contact, and she was extremely helpful and got me right back in, but people may not be aware of how to do that.
Yes, ma'am. We can definitely communicate that out.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Next, we have Human Resources. Welcome, Mr. Cupper.
Thank you. Tonight, Human Resources Report contains 2 items of information and no action items. Our first item of information is just a little bit about our new teacher orientation that we held this year. 2 years ago, we surveyed all of the new teachers through our district to gain insight on how the transition to Oconee had gone for them, what we could do to make that smoother, and if they were new to the profession, what did they feel like they were missing to start on day 1. As a result of that information, we partnered with Teaching and Learning, Technology, Business Services, and ourselves to form an enhanced program that we are happy to say seems to be working. From the seemingly small task of how to take attendance when you're a first-year teacher, to what all the deductions on a paycheck represent that still baffles many of our veteran teachers, we're happy to say that we are seeking to address the needs of our staff on a yearly basis to improve upon our processes. The second item of information While it's hard to believe, it has already been 1 year, almost, that we named Abby Bishop as the District Teacher of the Year for Oconee County Schools. We are quickly approaching that time where we need to recognize a teacher at each of our 12 schools who represents the excellence that we expect each day with our students. This is going to start on August 23rd, when our Teacher of the Year ballots are distributed at the school level. On August 30th, the top 5 nominees from each of those schools is going to complete an entry form with questions. The faculty will have an opportunity to review that information before they take a school vote on September 6th. And on September 8th, our Teacher of the Year for each of our schools is going to be announced. Following that, they will receive some pre-response questions from myself that they will then submit back. We will then have a selection committee that goes out and observes these teachers as well as reviews those responses. And of course, on September 28th this year, we will hold our annual Teacher of the Year banquet and declare a new District Teacher of the Year for Oconee County Schools. That concludes our remarks. We remain available for any questions.
Any questions? Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Next, we have the Associate Superintendent's report. Welcome, Dr. Liddell.
Thank you, Ms. Argo. Good evening, everyone. The Associate Superintendent's report contains 1 item of information and 5 action items tonight. The first item of information is a school safety update. As you all know, we employ several methods throughout our schools to keep our students and staff safe, and I'd just like to review a few of those items with you today. I want to start by acknowledging the Oconee County Sheriff's Office and our partnership with them. They do several things for us and with us, as you can see here on the screen, but the main thing is they are a vital part of our partnership and our plan in terms of school safety, and everything that we do here in our school system to keep our students and staff safe is through consultation with the Sheriff's Department. Dr. Branch and myself got a chance to spend quite a bit of time with them just a few weeks ago and review everything with regard to our school safety plan, facility improvements, and of course the traffic direction that you see in front of our schools each day. We also have safety drills that take place throughout the year. So twice a year we'll have lockdown drills where students are taught how to react to a physical threat on campus. We have severe weather drills twice a year where students are taught how to shelter in place. And we have fire drills monthly where students are taught how to evacuate our buildings effectively. What you're seeing here on the screen is security vestibules that we've installed at each of our schools. The purpose of these vestibules is to keep the general public separate from our students. There's a barrier there with a locking mechanism that forces an individual to check into our schools, state their business, and then our school staff is trained to either let them into that location or not let them in based on what they are there for and whether or not they're supposed to have access to our students. We also have access controls or key card access. Each one of our staff members has a card that is going to let them into locations that they have access to or authorized to have access to. What this allows us to do is have a single access point of entry at all of our buildings without restricting the movement of our staff. We also utilize surveillance cameras at all of our campuses. The purpose of these cameras primarily is to be able to identify and locate a threat that might be inside of our building without necessarily being in the building. The Oconee Sheriff's Office has access to these cameras and are able to pull those up in the event that there's somebody in our schools that does not belong. Thankfully that hasn't happened, but we do practice that. We also employ a visitor management system. This allows us to track who has been in our building and who has gained access to our students. It also checks each visitor against the National Sex Offender Registry each time that individual checks into one of our buildings. We have a crisis alert system. Our crisis alert system is a communication tool. Again, each one of our staff members is designated a crisis alert badge. This allows them to activate the system. When they activate the system, there will be visual cues to alert the individuals inside of the building that we've entered our lockdown protocol, as well as auditory cues, instructions on our computers, And then school administrators, district administrators, as well as every law enforcement agent in our county also get notification of who pressed that badge and where they were standing when they activated that alert. So we talk about with the sheriff's office, that coupled with those surveillance cameras allow them to arrive with an informed tactical response of where to enter that building in order to be able to isolate a threat if needed. We also have an anonymous reporting tool that's on our school websites called Quick Tip. An individual can report any threat or anything to us through this Quick Tip system and either be anonymous, or they can also leave their contact information if they want us to follow up with them. We typically get a lot of information on this throughout the year. We take every threat seriously and vet them, and you'll be happy to know that we get a lot of feedback on lunches and a number of other things from our kids on the Quick Tip system too. So it's got multiple uses there. And finally, what ties all of those things together is our training. You know, we've talked about safety drills, security vestibules, our card readers, surveillance cameras, visitor management, crisis alert, and a tip line. The reason that all of that works and is able to be leveraged together for a cohesive plan is because we train. You know, I mentioned the drills. We rehearse several different emergency situations with our staff throughout the year. Dr. Stansel mentioned active shooter training. The Sheriff's Office does that annually with our staff and reviews how to respond to an active threat, as well as what we might be experiencing physically if that situation were to occur, and what to expect. And we've got some photographs on the screen of training that the Sheriff's Office actually comes into our schools and rehearses to practice their response along with other first responders, so that all of that dovetails very nicely together, and that's where we come and get our school safety plan. So I'm going to pause there and answer any questions that you guys have regarding school safety before I get into the action items.
I got one.
Yes, sir.
So let's say hypothetically that the internet gets cut and times are doing work. How does that affect and teaches?
The system will still work. It has redundancies built into it.
I just want to say thank you for the collaborative leadership that you have in this, Dr. Branch and others. And when I say collaborative, not just within our own staff, but also with Sheriff Hill and his staff. I also believe, I know you and I have sat down and talked about this ad nauseum, and it doesn't matter what our school performance is if we can't keep our students safe and if we can't keep our staff safe. So thank you for all that collaboration and work with the Sheriff's Office. And I know Sheriff Hill isn't here, but it goes without saying his staff does an excellent job also in helping to protect all of our students and staff. So thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. All right, we've got 5 action items tonight. They're all field trips. You can see on the screen, Malcolm Bridge Middle School FFA will be traveling to Indianapolis in October. Oconee High School FFA will be going to Indianapolis in October. NOHS FBLA will be traveling to Dallas in November. Oconee Middle School Chorus will go to Orlando in May of '24. And North Oconee FBLA will travel to Orlando in June of '24. The superintendent's recommendation is to approve these trips as presented. And that concludes the associate superintendent's report, unless you guys have any more questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is operations.
Student services.
Oh, I'm sorry, did I
No, I
skip?
think you're right, but it's on the agenda, it said that. So I will go ahead. Good evening,
Student
board.
services, welcome.
Good evening, board members and Dr. Branch. For student services, we have 2 items of information and no action items for August 14th. The first item of information is the nurses training that was held on August 1st. Piedmont Athens Regional provided our nurses a skills check clinic on August 1st for the nurses in Oconee County. This clinic was a hands-on professional learning experience where the nurses would rotate through a series of 6 different stations, including trach, first aid, stop the bleed, G-tubes, diabetes, several different stations they would rotate through. This provided our nurses with the opportunity to fine-tune their skills and to expand their knowledge related to specific topics. Our hope is to have this training done annually that will serve to strengthen our partnership between Athens Regional and Oconee County schools. This will also assist with having consistency of training across the nurses in our district. Second item of information is on our parent involvement survey. The IDEA, which is the Individuals with Disabilities Act, requires that each state develops a performance plan. One of the indicators on the performance plan is indicator number 8, and that is parent involvement. That refers to the percentage of parents with children receiving special education services who report that the schools facilitate parent involvement as a means of improving services and results for their students with disabilities. Parents are given 10 questions and are asked to rank them accordingly. 1, very strongly disagree, to 6, very strongly agree. These questions cover a vast amount of information regarding their child's education, from effective communication with their teachers, the equal partnership that they have in decision-making, information that's given to them for transition purposes. This report gives valuable feedback on how our parents perceive the ability to actively participate in their child's education. Oconee County uses this information to enhance the services, build relationships, and improve our student outcome. I'm pleased to say that this year our parent survey score was a 97%. We also increased the number of respondents. We went from 518 to 630. I want to thank all of the principals and their special education staff at their schools who were so diligent and so responsive to making sure that we received these responses back from our stakeholders. There were about 23 systems that had less than 10 respondents. So we're very, very pleased that we had this amount of feedback from our parents and that the feedback was so positive as well. That's all of the information for student services, unless there's questions.
Thank you. Next, we have operations. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. The operations report has 2 items of information for this board meeting. The first is the energy report. It's been updated for the month of June. Next is construction update. I have to thank Steve again for the great pictures. Wanted everybody, you've seen so many aerial photos of Duff Creek Middle. I thought it would be worthwhile to see the kids actually in class. So we made it. School's in session, and we're getting a lot of good feedback from the building. We continue to work through punch list items and a few little hanging chads, but school's in. The primary school, as you can see, the front entrance has been updated with landscaping, and we're getting a lot of great feedback. We are still working on some roofing items at the building, but there's nothing hindering us from having school as we continue these last few things on the roof. Oconee Middle School field house roof is complete. We've got one punch list item we're working on there, but we've got it done. Oconee Elementary School, we are complete there, working on a few little punch list items, but everything's finished there. And lastly, we'll continue to work on the Oconee High roof as we fight the rainstorms that are here. It seems to be non-ending rainstorm, but we're continuing to work on the roof there and near completion. And we also are, if you haven't been by the new ISE site, you can see that it has really came out of the ground. Curb and gutter is in, steel structure's in place, the elevator shaft has been constructed, so they're really moving forward well there. And lastly, Malcolm Bridge Elementary addition, they're making a lot of great progress there as well. If you look in the picture, you can see the steel structure's in place, the concrete block installation has begun, and just an interesting tidbit, a little bit of roofing you see in the picture, they did that so the guys would have a place to get in the shade for a minute in this summer heat. So, but they were making great progress and no issues to report. And, district-wide paving, that took a little bit of our time this summer. We've paved all over. The paving is done. Again, we're working through a few little punch list items, but for the most part, everything is buttoned up and performing well. And that concludes the operations report, unless there are any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have communications. Welcome, Mr. Conklin.
Thank you, Ms. Argo, board members, Dr. Branch, good evening. The communications report tonight has 2 items of information. The first is the annual report. Pleased to announce the data we got back from the post office. We delivered to 16,783 Oconee County households, and that includes a few that also live outside the county and wanted to see our annual report as well, so we're proud of that. Our second item of information is the highlights package from July and August, featuring our 12, and just proud to say that, 12 schools.
Thank you.
That concludes the communications, unless you have any questions for me.
Thank you. We do have a need to go into executive session. We need a motion to do so.
I make a motion that the board will adjourn to executive session to discuss or deliberate upon personnel matters as described on the affidavit to be attached to the minutes.
Thank you, Ms. Parrish.
Second.
Mr. Hammack, all in favor? Passes 4-0.
Take a few minutes and clear the room, return for executive session.